This is CallumSmiles for Vox Populi, and today I'm going to explain to you a section of the UK legal system in light of the recent Tommy Robinson trial in Westminster Magistrates Court. Specifically, we're going to be comparing jury trials and magistrates trials in England, Wales and Scotland. What are the key differences and how do they work? But first, don't forget, if you don't already, give it a subscribe and give it a share. And then at the end, give it a like. Anyway, first let's break down what these trials are. In England, Wales and Scotland, criminal cases are handled in different courts depending on the seriousness of the offence. Magistrates trials and jury trials are two ways these cases are decided, but they do operate very differently, particularly north of the border, as technically England and Wales are kind of one country due to the Welsh being conquered, 1-0, whereas Scotland joined the Union through treaty. So let's start with magistrate trials in England and Wales. In England and Wales, a magistrate's trial happens in a magistrate's court. These courts usually deal with less serious offences, called summary offences. You know, things such as minor theft, traffic violations, public order issues, or if you're Tommy Robinson, terror charges. Here's how it works. So who decides the case? Well, cases are usually heard by a panel of 3 volunteer magistrates. They're just regular people trained to make legal decisions. Or sometimes a professional judge called a district judge. There is no jury. That's right, there is no jury involved. The magistrate or judge listen to the evidence and then they decide if the defendant is guilty and determine the sentence. Sounds open to nefarious measures. Anyway, the speed and cost of these are what make them appealing to the system. You know, these trials are quicker and cheaper because they are less formal. Most cases are wrapped up in a single hearing, so then there's less time, meaning less money spent. But there are sentencing limits. Magistrates can only impose sentences up to 6 months in prison for a single offence, or 7 years for multiple serious offences, though they often do refer bigger cases to a higher court. Now, let's talk about jury trials in England and Wales, which happen in the Crown Court for more serious crimes, known as indictable offences. Think robbery, assault, murder, or mean tweets. Here's how it works. Who decides a case? Well, you have a jury of 12 ordinary citizens, randomly selected. You might have been called up for jury service yourself. They listen to the evidence and they decide if the defendant is guilty or not guilty, which again, it could be open to nefarious measures, but it sounds like there could be less because there's more people you have to try and bribe. But you could get 12 idiots, which is always running the risk, especially these days. So what is the role of the judge? Well, the judge oversees the trial. He explains the law to the jury, and if the defendant is found guilty, they decide the sentence. How long is it? Well, these trials are a lot more formal, often lasting days or even weeks. Remember the O.J. Simpson trial, which went on for, at the time, seemed like an absolute lifetime.
Just did you do it?
No, I didn't. Nope. Did not do it.
The barristers, they present the evidence with witnesses testifying and the jury deliberating in private. But what is the sentencing power? Well, Crown Courts can impose much heavier sentences, including life imprisonment for most serious crimes. Think mean tweets. Now let's head north to Scotland, where the legal system is a bit different. Magistrates' trials are handled in Justice of the Peace courts for minor offences like speeding or minor breaches of the peace. Who decides them? Well, you have a Justice of the Peace, a trained volunteer similar to a magistrate down south, or sometimes a professional sheriff in a sheriff court for slightly more serious cases. yeah, sheriffs are actually a thing here in Britain. There is no jury here either, like in England and Wales. These trials rely on the justice or the sheriff to make the decision. So it's wise to not upset them if you're in court and you are a defendant. They're quick and they are local. These courts are designed to handle cases quickly, often like in magistrates' courts in one sitting, and they focus on community level issues. When it comes to sentencing, justices of the peace can impose up to 60 days in prison or fines, while sheriffs in sheriff courts can impose up to 7 years for serious cases. So how does a Scottish jury trial work? Well, in Scotland, jury trials happen in either the High Court of Justiciary for the most serious crimes like murder, or in the sheriff courts for mid-level offences. But here's what makes them unique. Unlike the 12-person jury in England and Wales, Scottish juries have 15 members. Scotland also has a unique 3-verdict system until the devolved government very recently, in September of this year, 2025, voted to change it. So you had guilty, not guilty, and until very recently, not proven. That last one means that there's not enough evidence to convict, but the jury isn't fully convinced of innocence either, so the defendant walks free. I think there's just a mark on your record that where they go, we think you did it, we couldn't prove it. The Scottish juries also don't need a unanimous verdict. For them, it's on a majority system. So if 8 of the 15 think you're guilty, then, unfortunately, you are deemed guilty in the eyes of the law. Like in England and Wales, the judge or the sheriff oversees the trial, and then they set the sentence if the defendant is found guilty. So to summarise, what are the big differences around the country? Number one, you have the seriousness of cases. Magistrate trials handle minor offences, jury trials tackle serious crimes. Number two, decision makers. Magistrates, or justices of the peace up in Scotland, decide in magistrate trials, whilst juries decide guilt in jury trials, with judges or sheriffs setting the sentence guidelines. Number three, jury size. England and Wales use 12 jurors, whereas Scotland uses 15. Number four, the verdict system. England and Wales have the guilty or not guilty. Scotland now will have that, but until very recently had the not proven aspect added to it as well. Number five, the court setting. Magistrate trials are less formal and faster. Jury trials are formal and can take longer. And finally, number six, the sentencing power. Magistrate courts have limited sentencing powers, whilst Crown Courts and Scotland's High Court can impose severe penalties. So that is your differences between jury trials and magistrate trials in a nutshell across Britain. What are your thoughts on the process? Do you think either should be changed? Personally, I'm not too keen on the magistrate system, but I'm also concerned with the jury system, given the average IQ around the country these days.
Some people are really fucking stupid. Did you ever notice that? How many really stupid people you run into during the day? God damn, there's a lot of stupid bastards walking around. Carry a little pad and pencil with you. You wind up with 30 or 40 names by the end of the day. Look at it this way. Think of how stupid the average person is, and then realize half of them are stupider than that.
Personally, I don't like the idea with a magistrate that you can have one person that decides your fate, albeit a much shorter fate than if it was in a Crown Court. But let me know your preference. Make sure you head over to the comments and leave your thoughts, and also don't forget to head over to the website where you can see everything else that I've done, and I suppose you can see what the rest of the team have done as well. And I'll see you next time.